Now then, got a great verse for you this week. But before we get there, I actually want to go back to one from last week. I don't know if you remember that last week I did a video, and in the title it's got hugs, and it was all about how my granddaughter had sent me this paper hug with the arms stretched out, and it was so that I could get a hug from her and wrap herself around me, because we were missing hugs in these times of social distancing and being apart. Well, and this fits in really well with what we've been talking about with positive anticipation and choosing to believe, and that freedom to choose that we've been going through this week. Of course, it escalated, and I felt that I should send something back. So Kate and I made a grandad. We basically found one of my shirts and we printed and fitted a cardboard bit inside, and we printed out hands from a photograph and a photograph of my face, and we sent that to the grandchildren so that they could still get grandad hugs. It seemed only fair. In fact, why don't I show you this in action right now?
You're going to say goodnight to Grandad.
Hello, Grandad.
Say goodnight.
Good night,
You're going to give him a kiss. Grandad, should we go say goodnight to the girls? Come on then.
So after that, of course, what was the response to this? Well, this is what happened next. The grandchildren all turned up at our house. 3 grandchildren that were able to be there even with social distancing. Excellent stuff. And they brought their cuddly toys as well, as you can see. And that meant they were available for hugs at any time. And it also meant, of course, they could therefore come right through the front door and into the front room. And in fact, that's where my grandchildren are sat right now, available for hugs. And it must be said, they seem to have been remarkably well behaved. There's been no squabbling, and they always seem to be smiling. It's brilliant. I've certainly never known my grandchildren quite as quiet as they are. They're still down there, you know, sitting on the sofa. Anyway, let's look at the verse and let's tie everything in with everything that God's been speaking to us to this week. You know, it's significant that coming from all directions, from all different kinds of leaders, is that this is such a key time for the church now. God is going to train us and is training us and equipping us during this lockdown for what's coming after. He's enabling us to actually discover a better mental health, a greater spiritual health as we focus on Him. And we, you know, we're realizing that things are not what is important. What is important is one another. What is important is our walk with God. But let's look at the verse, Romans 15 verse 13, and I promise you this is a good one. So I pray, this is Paul praying over the Romans, the Roman Christians. I pray that this God of hope, who keeps looking expectantly to the future, will fill you with joy and peace as you continue to live by faith in Him. May the power of the Holy Spirit work in you in such a way that you will always overflow with hope, expecting God's best. You see, things like cardboard granddads and cardboard grandchildren, they are part of the equipping. You know, this is talking about our hope, our looking forward to the future, that positive anticipation that we've been talking about. It fills us with a joy and a peace. But this isn't just something that bang, woo, that's it, mystically sorted. It's something that God puts within us that is a resource that we draw upon. It's a bit like putting petrol or diesel into the car and then never driving it, which actually, thinking about it, is what is happening right at this moment. But the fuel just slowly evaporates from the car, and it only comes into action. It's only of any use when the car is started and you can go on a drive and you can motor in non-lockdown times. But in terms of the spirit and what God is doing, our spirit is not locked down in the slightest. But when joy is being pumped in from God, when peace is coming upon us because of God, we then have to activate that fuel and use it. So doing things like cardboard granddads, cardboard grandchildren, it's part of the joy we have in what God has given us. It's making the best of situations that we have and doing daft things. I mean, we're making a church dance video at the moment. It's all just a bit of fun. It's all a bit of nonsense, except that it's not, because when you're doing things like that, you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about contributing to a community project, and it begins to lift your spirit. It gives you a positive anticipation of just seeing this bit of fun come back at us, and it lifts your whole well-being just by being involved in something like that. And being involved in these kind of community things at this time, even though it's remote and via Zoom and via YouTube and via Facebook, these things are actually really important, because it means we draw upon that joy and that peace that God is filling us with. It's that positive anticipation, or our sure and certain hope. I mean, Viktor Frankl, I was talking about him yesterday, he was saying that the one thing he wasn't going to have stolen from him in the concentration camp, a Nazi concentration camp, was he was going to retain his freedom to choose his attitude. And if he could do it in those situations, we can sure do it when we're actually in our homes, still surrounded by many of the things that we love. Yes, I miss my grandchildren, I miss my son, I miss my daughter-in-law, I miss my other son, I miss all my family. But there's also the joy of looking forward to reuniting. I miss worshipping as a church together, but there is the joy of anticipation of being back together again. And I don't want to waste that joy that the Lord is pumping into me, and I need to access it and use it. That's what it means when it says in this verse, continue to live by faith. It means take hold of the things that God has given you and start to live them. Now, sometimes the joy, you think, oh, I don't feel no joy. But it is there, but you will only see it when you begin to motor. And then Paul prays, may the power of the Holy Spirit work in you in such a way that you will always overflow with hope, expecting God's best. Don't expect God's worst. Expect the best of God. Anticipate the best things of God, because God has an incredible, wonderful, beautiful favour that he has poured into your life. But we have to retain that freedom to make the choices. Like the 7 choices that I spoke about on Sunday, the 7 choices of happiness, if you like. I called them the 7 secrets of happiness. They're all about exercising that choice in the midst of everything else to be happy, and it enables that happiness because coming out of this, we're going to have a lot of work to do, church, as we become even more missional in our community and connect with our community. And we're going to still need to walk in that joy and that peace and the sense of fun that God has placed in us. At the end of our church vision, it says, and have great fun doing it. It is there very purposefully. We just want that to let that joy of God, that deep joy, yes, but that deep joy that bursts out of us like a fountain of living water. Listen, I know these times can be dark, but the way that dark times change is by allowing the light to shine in. God bless you, everybody, and keep safe.